Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
All right, so this is the 2011 South by Southwest film bumper that they played before all the movies here called Mario as an independent film.
I was lying there on the grass. A turtle walked right up to me and goes, "How many people are you willing to step on to get what you want?"
I told you it was good shit.
Yeah. Let me give you some extra hours this week. Help get your mind off the girl for a little bit.
That's not necessary. I'm getting her back.
She's seeing somebody else. She's dating some yuppie prick.
Doesn't sound like Peach.
Where is she? Your princess? She's in another castle.
Who's there?
It's me, Mario.
If you don't show up on time tomorrow, I'm going to fire you. You're a plumber, Mario.
You're my brother, Luigi.
You need to stop doing so many mushrooms.
Shut up!
Peach doesn't need you to save her.
She does, and I'm going to.
Goomba! Calm down.
Where's Peach?
I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me where she is. You're a plumber. You're not some kind of hero.
Listen to me, Mario. It's game over.
You don't have unlimited lives. I am getting my girl back. You lost it! I am invincible!
It's Mario. He's missing.
I feel so small.
Let me take a turn.
Let's go.
It's Frame Rate!
Woo! But that was a close call on that one. I totally forgot that there was a curse word, so I had to do the impromptu blah.
Pretty effective, too.
Sorry to anyone who just randomly heard me drinking, heard me screaming there at the moment. And sorry to anyone who just watched my...
I think that's much better than the classic beep.
I thought that was great. It was perfect. It was well done.
or the cat screech or the duck quack or any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, the Brian Brushwood screech of fear.
That's called the Brian Brushwood Panicked Yelp is the official term.
Panicked Yelp is available for download.
That's right.
Creative Commons.
On the internets. Go to the internets. Go to www.panicscream.com.
So that was at South by Southwest. Is that a real film?
No. That's what they played like.
Because I want it to be a real film.
I know. What was great about it is when I encountered it as Mario Brothers reimagined as, hipster indie film. But then, so I kind of had the joke spoiled from me from the beginning. Like watching it, like when I set it up, I just said it's called Mario. It didn't say what it was. Did you have that moment? Because did you know what to expect?
No, I didn't. I didn't see that. And so part of me is like, please let this be real. I want to watch this. This is brilliant.
I love the idea of Mario as a drugged out plumber chasing after a girlfriend.
You're doing too many mushrooms, Mario. And then they have him in a cart.
The best is when he grabs the pills with the stars and he gets all raved out. He's like, I'm invincible. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great. We were, as you may have inferred from this conversation, we were at the South by Southwest Interactive Festival this weekend, which is the biggest part of South by Southwest now. Who would have known? They have more attendees than music now.
I am, first of all, blown away by that, and I actually wonder whether or not they're going to split off to different aspects of interactive, because interactive is a pretty wide net. And people always ask, well, what are you going to South by Southwest to do? And there's everything from talking about how to make money in social media to digital technology, how it changes the future and stuff. I'm to live content that like web TV that's being created. It's almost like a TV category of South by Southwest.
Yeah, well, what's funny is South by Southwest started as a music festival. And then and that was in the mid 80s. It started to get big. It started to get popular. And around 1994, 95, I can't remember which one, they added film and multimedia. And the idea was like, hey, artists, music, let's add film. Let's add people who are doing interesting things in film and have a film festival that goes on at the same time as the music festival. And then I think because CD-ROMs were very popular at the time, they said, hey, let's be even more on the edge and have, people that are not just doing movies, but people who are doing multimedia, people who are doing something with computers. That multimedia part of it eventually was renamed interactive because it became more about the internet, obviously.
But
and now it has outgrown music.
Well, and it's almost outgrown interactive because there was so much digital media. There were so many shows. Obviously, Twit was there. Revision 3 was there. You have so many small content creators, independent artists and stuff. And while we like to think, when you say interactive, there's a big difference between interactive in terms of Twitter, where it's a live conversation that the whole world is talking at once, versus a show like this. I mean, we show up in interactive because we're on the web, but really we're new media. We're new technology that makes possible shows like this one.
It's interesting. South by Southwest, the reason I gave that little history there is because they have, in fact, expanded into other areas before. And so you might think, well, it would make sense to take interactive and split it up. But those were new areas. It would be interesting to see them take South by Southwest Interactive and say, well, we're going to do South by Southwest New Media as well as South by Southwest Social Media as well.
Yes.
It's like I'm not sure how they would slice and dice it. And the other thing you can compare it to is South by Southwest Music. They haven't made South by Southwest Rock and South by Southwest Folk, or South by Southwest Film hasn't turned into South by Southwest Indie and South by Southwest Action. So I don't know. I mean, I can see it both ways, but it is definitely getting so large, it's hard to keep a handle on. And another thing is, with South by Southwest Music in the early days, when I moved to Austin in 1993 and was living there, there was a lot of discussion about how to keep other venues from doing music during South by Southwest Music and just riding the coattails. Right.
Yes.
There was a huge discussion about, the ethics of that and, how South by Southwest could bring everyone in. And telling bands, like, if you play a venue during South by Southwest Music and it's not an official venue, we won't invite you back to South by Southwest if, later on. I can see that happening with South by Southwest Interactive because there were so many venues outside of the convention center that weren't authorized parts of the actual conference.
Well, and that's why I think that there may be a case to split up interactive so they can add another week of it, make it a month-long festival. Why the heck not? But because look at how many events you don't even need a badge to do. Now, of course, we had badges because we were covering the event, but last year I didn't have a badge, and this year I never used my badge.
I showed my badge once when I was going upstairs at the convention center with the live view, and to go upstairs, they were making you show your badge this year. Because that's where all the panels were. In the past, you could go right up to a panel's door and you didn't have to show your badge till you walked in the room.
Yeah, if they want to get a bigger share, they're going to have to grow the pie, because right now the real party is the best parts are happening outside. I mean, this is from the perspective of somebody who spent all his time outside. So all I'm really saying is that we had a great time. We saw some amazing content. We met some really fascinating people. We saw some incredible shows. Of course, you don't know what we were missing inside at the panels. But when you have as big a party outside as inside, if you want to make money as an organization, you're going to have to, expand and give an opportunity to get everyone back inside.
Now, it may almost sound like South by Southwest was the big story this week, but it wasn't.
It's a tiny story.
No, this
is the story.
Is the big story.
This just in, the big story.
Say it. Say it, Tom. Say it. Just say the word. Just say the word. Get it over with.
Netflix.
Yes, of course.
Netflix, we've decided. Netflix is the Apple of frame rate. We can't go Like we can't even go through the whole show without talking about Netflix twice.
I feel like Han Solo. I'm like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
I didn't do it.
Netflix, they keep being amazing.
Scruffy nerf herder, Netflix. All right, so here's the deal. The NPD group, the analyst group that tracks these sorts of things, says that Netflix owns 61% of the market for digital movies.
That is phenomenal.
We're talking about when people pay to watch a movie online, so it doesn't count piracy, obviously, but they are paying Netflix 61% of the time.
I mean, it is. Try to wrap your mind around that. I mean, I can't think of any other environment or economic environment where somebody's dominating at that level. I mean, do you have any? Yeah, I guess so.
In the tablet market, in the very, very young tablet, which I guess digital movies are a very young market too, like streaming online. Here's who else is. Can you guess who's number 2? And number 2 only has 8% of the market.
I would say Amazon. Is that right?
Comcast.
What?
Has 8%. People using their on-demand online Comcast, that TV Anywhere thing that we've talked about. I guess that's very successful to them. You know, these numbers actually reminded me of search.
Oh, yes.
Google, 60%.
Yes. Dominating.
Bing, 11%. Comcast, 8%.
Also, Netflix has had their eye on this prize for a long time. When they first launched, there was nothing net about Netflix outside of you could use the internet to select what movies you like. It was essentially DVDs by mail. So their stock price took a major tank early on. They were not looking really good. I got to tell you, I'm really excited to watch them dominate, especially given how many things they do right about all the reasons that we've talked about before on the show. But it's amazing. 61% is very incredible.
Now, DirecTV, Time Warner, and Apple are tied for 3rd. So what this implies is that if you're a competitor for Netflix, you're a cable company or satellite company in DirecTVs, but you know what we mean. You're a traditional provider of TV, and it just points out to me that they are so missing the boat. They are so just falling behind the times. They have us. They have our money. They have our subscriptions. And if they just gave us an app and gave us the ability to just watch everything they provide us over the internet, they would win hands down.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. And that's the amazing part, is that people don't see the long-term potential for that kind of thing.
Yeah, although we will talk, actually, let's go ahead and talk about it now. Time Warner Cable just came out with their iPad app, which gives you 32 channels, not all your channels, but 32 channels streaming live to your app. You're a Time Warner customer. We talked about this on Tech News Today. There's a little issue with their app, though.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm actually looking for the story right now because I want to see what are some of the channels they had, because I looked over the list and there were some good ones in there.
Well, why don't you just pull up the app and
Oh no, that's good because I have my app and I'm right here at home. So here, I'll just let me
just pull up the app and look at it because I can't remember. I know it's like A&E, AMC, Bravo, CNBC.
Well, the first thing you see is that you get this logo.
Okay, yeah, that's the launch screen, right?
That screen that you have to sit through every single time, and then you get to watch your TV.
It's taking a little while, isn't it?
It takes a little while. And then you just sit here looking at the launch screen.
On demand.
It doesn't do anything. Apparently, it actually choked up. So
earlier on TNT, when we showed this, it said that you have to be at home on your Time Warner authorized cable modem in order to watch the channels, which I believe limits the effectiveness of this.
Yes. Well, and actually, I'm okay with that because you got to have baby steps to get things started. Look at this. It's not even launching. The part that bothered me is not that they're trying to keep people watching TV at home, because after all, that's the service that they've enjoyed for so many years so far. The part that bothers me is that I am at home and I am using their equipment and the freaking thing doesn't work. It's convinced that I'm an outsider out of the mall trying to watch a movie or something.
But that's why it bothers me that they're authorizing your modem, right? It's like that's just a way to break it. I bet you that the thing that's keeping that app from working is some sort of misconfiguration that's not detecting the modem properly. Why not say, look, you're paying to get our cable service, and even if they charge you an extra $5 a month, you can get your cable service where you go. I can do that with Slingbox. I can go buy a Slingbox and do this. Why can't Time Warner? Why do they want to limit it to your house?
Well, and
how does that make any sense?
there is certainly precedent for this. You know, Microsoft, when they license big software packages to enterprise solutions, there was, I don't know if they still do that, but back when I was in the biz, you could decide if it would be per user or per seat licenses. Per seat was tied to the computer because you'd have different employees in the morning and the evening. Per user was this employee, wherever he went, whatever object he went on, he was able to do it. Why not offer us the same choice to get the media that we were already paying for?
Because of licensing, because that's probably the only way those channels would agree to be on the app is like, well, they have to be at home where they'd be watching it on cable anyway. We don't want to be streaming it. It's all that stuff we've talked about in the past. I know that's it.
Yes. Well, and look, there's a million understandable reasons. And we're not saying that we don't understand why it is. What we don't understand is their defense of sticking themselves in the mud that's driving us absolutely nuts. So while we're talking about Netflix, though, did you see this breaking story about the new space Netflix is moving into?
Yeah, so to bring this around, right, we're talking about Netflix and how they're a competitor and the ability to watch movies and TV over the internet, and the licensing problems are something that Netflix runs into all the time. So they're out there trying constantly to buy the rights to stream programming. But in this case, they're just leaping over that whole thing and going straight to the source.
They're becoming a network. Netflix to enter original programming with a mega deal with David Fincher and Kevin Spacey doing a series called House of Cards. This was based on a book on the late 80s era, the last days of Margaret Thatcher being in office. I know nothing about this story. Have you ever heard of House of Cards or read it or seen the BBC series?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with the series, but the idea of Netflix, I mean, okay. I mean, we was it last week that we talked about the fact that they have passed Showtime and
yes.
Stars.
They are nipping at the heels of HBO. They are about to take down Goliath.
All of a sudden you sit there and you look at something like Stars and you look at Breaking Bad and you're like, huh, you know, if I made that show, I wouldn't have to pay Stars for it. And I could just stream it to my 20 million subscribers. And suddenly I'm Stars. And I don't have to pay anybody for that.
Do you think this is a defensive move, knowing that there's a lot of people unhappy with how little they're making off of the Stars content and what a benefit Netflix is deriving from it? Is this a case where they're ready for that sweetheart deal to run out and they're trying to leverage other opportunities?
I don't know that it's a direct response to that. I think that might be an oversimplification, but I think it's a realization of that. You know, where they're saying, gosh, you know, we're beating ourselves up over here trying to figure out how to do a deal with Stars. And I think we still want to do a deal with Stars. But what if we had David Fincher and Kevin Spacey making stuff for us? If we're almost to the level of HBO and subscribers, and they can have freaking Steve Buscemi and
Boardwalk Empire, yeah.
And Boardwalk Empire. What's the director's name? Why can't I remember? He's
Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese. Why can't we get a big name director and a big name star and do our own series that way and be just as successful and get more people watch? You know, it's sort of like, fine, Time Warner, you want to try to play hardball and take your content and go home? We'll make our own content. That's what they're, you know, it's just playing the game. They're looking at it and saying, oh, Showtime has Weeds. HBO has well, what do they have anymore? Oh, True Blood, you know, or Entourage.
They got Game of Thrones.
Oh, right, Game of Thrones coming out, right? So they have the compelling content that makes people want to subscribe. We can do that too, you know, and our subscription fee is a lot lower.
Here's what's great about this, because and not only is the subscription fee lower, but of course the infrastructure is you already got internet, then you can watch it right away. What's great about this is not only does this send a message that, look, we are going to change the way people consume media, and if you are not going to cooperate, we are going to make our own content. Second of all, it's a great experiment, so maybe this will take off, maybe this will change everything for Netflix. If this project is half as exciting as it sounds like. I mean, David Fincher, obviously, tremendously big name, along with Kevin Spacey. But third of all, there's kind of no downside to this, because unless this is a catastrophic failure or a comedy of errors, they're going to be left with very compelling content that they can sell and syndicate to anyone they want, because they're not. It's fresh to anyone who's part of the mom and dad set who only watches their television live while they're at home. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't that be hilarious if Netflix builds this up and starts having a bunch of hit shows, and eventually they're the ones subsidizing the continuation of broadcast networks and Hulu? We'll license out some reruns of House of Cards to you. That should keep a few subscribers coming your way. Although we really need a lot of money for this because it could undermine our business.
Well, and this is an indication of how bizarre. I mean, this is how those weird nesting problems happen where this actor can't appear on this project without making these guys upset about the blah, 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 and the licenses for this can never be distributed over satellite but not landline, blah, 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 blah. But meanwhile, I mean, maybe it'll change. But just as it was delightful to watch the ascent of Apple, the comeback kid, as it was delightful to see Google, who got the internet, jump ahead, I'm still rooting for Netflix. Now, maybe a few years from now when Netflix turns into the empire like Google and Apple are now, then I'll be bitter and jaded. I'll be complaining about Netflix. But for right now, so excited to watch them move forward.
Now, are we worried that Netflix is getting too big?
Not yet.
If they're making content as well as delivering it? No, because we have this other story here just to round out the big story that they are telling Hollywood's largest film companies, we don't want to have a buy button on Netflix. We want to rent movies and we want to stream movies, but we don't want to sell movies. We just don't want to be in that business.
I think this is a case because when you look at it on the surface, why on earth would they not sell? Gamefly already does that. Gamefly is pretty much Netflix for video games. And one of the things they do is if you love a game, you click keep it, and then they send you the instructions in the box. This is free revenue. It's free money to Netflix. So why on earth wouldn't they do it since all they have to do is add a button? And I think this is a case where they don't want to be under the thumb of the content owners. They don't want to be in a place where they have to owe something or they have to give back. It's like federal funds. States, bizarrely, will refuse federal funds for certain things because they don't want to be told. That's why we have a legal drinking age of 21 nationwide, is because the federal government gave out free money for the highways. And then everyone said, sure, why not? And it was like the last holdout was Louisiana, because eventually they said, well, the only way you keep getting this money is if you make your legal drinking age 21. So it used to be a state issue, suddenly became a federal issue. I suspect that's the kind of thing that's happening with Netflix, that they don't want to be under the thumb and have that poison pill.
But if they already own these DVDs, if they did like Gamefly and just said, we'll sell you that DVD, then they don't really need to have a deal with the Hollywood studios.
I mean, and that's the weird part, is that it's studios requesting.
They want to sell new, like shrink wrap DVDs. They don't want to just sell the old ones. I think that's the difference.
Well, yeah, but also like the studios that are pushing for it, they are trying very hard to keep the existing model alive. And the existing model is, hey, man, everyone should have a DVD library. And I think that's a big part of the problem we're seeing, is that I kind of think DVD libraries are a fad. I mean, you have a huge DVD library. Do you ever go back and pull out the physical media and watch it?
Oh, no, I don't. There are I could probably number on two hands, less than two hands. Although that would be one hand. I can number on just over one hand the number of DVDs I actually will regularly pull off. And when I say regularly, I mean like once a year. Yes. I will pull down Star Wars. I will pull down Lord of the Rings. I used to pull down The Matrix, although that one's been a while. The rest of those DVDs, we sold off, I'd say, over half our DVDs at one point because we're like, we just don't watch them anymore. And we don't need to have them. We can find them in other places.
I think...
So I mean, this ownership model is definitely dying.
I think it was based on a flawed concept. The idea being that people would want to revisit their movies as often as they revisit albums. And that's not true, because there's a million other things you can do while you listen to an album. You can dance, you can make love, you can work out, you could do a million different things to associate.
All of them costly.
Yeah, you could, but there's only one thing you can do when you're watching a movie, and that's sit there and watch your movie. And so I think that's part of why
you never dance while you're watching your movie.
No, maybe. I don't. All of a sudden, I'm uncomfortable with this line of discussion.
I won't ask you any more. I won't ask you any more questions. No further questions, Your Honor.
But the important thing is that we've been sold on this idea that you should have. Hey, man, you got a library of books. You got a library of albums. You should have a library of movies. And I think of those three, I see the least reason to have a library of movies, especially because I want to experience it once, maybe twice. If I got kids, and again, the only difference is kids. You have kids are going to watch a movie 18 million times, and I understand that.
You know what's odd about this? It leads right into another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Stop everything. Okay, we mean that. Stop dancing.
Yeah, stop driving. Pull over on the side of the road.
Stop doing all that stuff.
Stop cooking. Stop watches. Stop dancing while you watch frame rates.
A combination of a PricewaterhouseCoopers, you know them. They're the ones who certify the results of the Oscars.
Consultants.
A combination of a PwC survey and focus groups in the latter half of 2010 revealed that consumers' mindset has so clearly switched away from the purchase model that we were just talking about, that of all the available methods to obtain movie content, purchasing a physical copy ranked lower than 5 different rental scenarios, whether digital or not.
Wow.
20% who said they prefer to buy a DVD was actually the same percentage who said they would sooner borrow a DVD than make any kind of transaction at all.
Yeah, I think, I don't know necessarily what to say about this because every medium is totally different. And I'm comparing it in my mind to my gut reaction is I just want to experience the story. With The Wire, I'm kind of sad that I'm sitting on all these copies of The Wire that I now own in a restricted iTunes environment that I can't give to my friends, that I'm just sitting on. I feel like I essentially paid twice for content I only watched once. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I'm so happy that I have this library of books in my, thousands of books, so I can go back and re-experience different ideas or pick up an old classic or whatever. And I don't know what the solution is, but this does not surprise me because I've been annoyed with the purchase model for both movies and television for quite a while now.
And one of the big advantages to buying a DVD versus, well, even not even just renting a DVD, but definitely downloading a digital movie is the extras, right? So if the extras are on a separate disc and you rent, you don't get the extras. If you download a digital copy, in most cases, you don't get any extras. There are some iTunes versions that have some extras, but you're not getting the full boat of extras that you get in the DVD. That's the big thing about owning it. In this survey, only 25% of people surveyed cited extras as a reason for buying a DVD. So even when you ask, okay, well, if you do buy a DVD, it's because of the extras, right? They're like, no.
Well,
not really.
And truthfully, I'm going to say I think that number is overinflated as well because I always think I'm going to be really excited about the extras. And the problem is you finish watching a movie and you're like, do I really want to rewatch that movie again right now with the alternate audio track? And I never get around to it. And so I think even the extras are kind of blown out of proportion. Now, having said that, if I could, I would give $5 just to watch all the lost extras, the stuff that got pirated and leaked out on YouTube, the shutting down of the Dharma Initiative.
You
that
give
kind of
$5?
Stuff. Sure.
Well,
just
because I
watch,
think you only need to give $35 to actually buy the DVD.
But I don't want to give you $35. I only want the $5 I have not seen.
All right. Just send me $5 and I'll send you my copy of the lost DVDs.
Aren't you? Okay, I thought we were friends. Just send me the.
Well, you just said you'd give $5. Okay, fine. You can do it for free.
You know what? I will give you $5 if you find some kind of secure way to host it to where I don't have to wait in the mail for 3 freaking days for it to arrive.
See, that I would do for free.
Okay, well,
the $5 you're sending me covers the postage. But if I'm streaming it to you, it's like, well, why would I charge you anything?
I'll give you some WoW coins. How about that? Give you some gold.
Do you have any gold? Really? All right, we might be able to work something out then.
All right.
Anyway, I say this all the time, so a lot of people in the audience have probably heard me say it, but I think that optical storage, be it DVD or whatever replaces it, Blu-ray, etc., will never entirely go away because we will always have a market for collectors. But these small percentages show that in most cases, people are like, well, I don't want every movie. But there's always, I wonder if they had done the survey in a way it said, what's your favorite movie of all time? And would you buy that in a physical format? I bet you'd get a very high number. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I bet you would get a very high number of people because then the extras matter, right? Like you said, you're like, I never want to watch the extras except for Lost because it's one of your favorites. Or for me, Lord of the Rings is something I pull down every year, usually during the Christmas break because I have a little extra time, and I watch it through, and sometimes I have commentary on, or I'll watch one of the makings of again just to, because that's something I really love and really enjoy. And so those are those 3 to 5 things that I have to have. And then if you start beefing that up, that's what the studio should do, is like more action figures, more fun stuff. Take a cue from video games when they have the special deluxe edition of a video game, right? You can buy the $60 copy, or you can buy the $110 copy that has a comic book and a CD and the figurine and, really play it out.
Which sounds silly to the outsider, but if you have that much enthusiasm, then it's worth it. It's cool to get the figurine that you could get with it. By the way, in the chat room, Reverb Mike says quite succinctly, collectors equals hoarders. So that's the question: is do you agree or disagree? Collectors.
I disagree. No, collectors are a subset of, hoarders are a subset of collectors. Plenty of people collect without hoarding. I think that's an oversimplification.
All right, we'll take that.
I mean, when I think about hoarders, I think about people who have piles of newspapers and dead cats.
Yeah.
When I think of collectors, I think of a guy who has like a baseball card collection, or
No, but you've walked into their house before. They have a whole wall filled with nothing but discs, and I tell you, I can't help but look and just go 1,000 times 15. This is
but it's collection with reason or direction. You know what I mean? I'm obsessed with this particular film, and I'm willing to do anything and everything to collect everything that's involved with it. Hoarding is more like, I don't know, I just can't throw anything away ever.
Right. I think it's I think there's maybe a similarity.
Yeah,
there's like
there's
a
a similarity.
What is it? Not Punnett Square. When you have the circles, right?
Yeah.
The intersections.
A Venn diagram.
Yeah, there's a Venn diagram to be had there, but they're not.
Punnett Square, though. Let's pretend it's genetic. Whether or not it's a recessive or dominant gene, it's going to make you into
I have a pea plant that is a hoarder, and a pea plant that is a collector. When I crossbreed them.
The chat room responds to your claims, by the way, by saying that collectors are just hoarders who have enough shed space to hold it all.
No, they're not. No, there are people who collect that actually also are able to get rid of other things. They just collect a certain thing. And even then, sometimes they don't collect it to excess.
All right.
You don't have to be obsessive compulsive to be a hoarder.
All right. Well, that's good enough for me.
Maybe I'm just, feeling defensive because I collect a few things. I don't know.
What's funny is, I'm so against hoarding and collecting and clutter that even digital goods, stuff that doesn't even physically exist, I'm tempted to see if there's a way out of my Steam library that I could just delete games that I know I'm never going to get around to playing. I just don't even look at them in my list of games. I was like, I'm never going to play you. You were a bad decision on a drunken evening, and I should never have bought you even though you were $3, and I just hate seeing the name of you down there.
I put it this way: I collect books, right? I've got a book collection that I really enjoy. I went and I bought an old book from the 1800s yesterday, but I also get rid of books. I go through sometimes and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not really interested in this side anymore. These are books that I don't really need to keep, and so I weed the collection. A hoarder doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, you're not the kind of person who would hoard something besides movies, also have a ridiculous big collection of DVDs and hats, for example. A giant, stupidly tall.
Now, that's a hoarder. Anyone who just has, 51 hats, that's ridiculous. That is not a hoarder.
I'm saying you have a problem. This is an intervention.
This is totally become an intervention.
We're fixing you right now.
All right. But see, you can, and I guess that shows you can be a collector and a hoarder all at the same time.
Wrapped it up in a bow.
Time for Film Film. Facebook, a social network, but also a place to watch movies with your friends.
This seems like the weirdest marriage ever, but then when I read the article, I was blown away. I had no idea Facebook was such a player on video.
Yeah, so the deal is that, people upload their own videos. So in that YouTube sense, that very classic YouTube sense, there's a huge amount of video on Facebook, and people watch it because they care about it. right?
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
it's
You
it's
care about
Brian taking a video while we're in Austin hanging out and uploading it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see that, and so I watch it because I'm your friend, and friends share this stuff, and everybody watches everybody else's videos. That makes sense. Now they're going to move into trying to get into the Netflix game or the Amazon online game or whatever, Hulu, whatever you want to call it. The test, this came out last week, is The Dark Knight from Time Warner. It will cost you 30 Facebook credits, which is about $3, for a 48-hour rental. So once you pay, you've got 48 hours to watch. It's not like some rental systems where you don't start, counting down that clock until you start watching it. Like from the get-go, you've only got 48 hours to watch it, and you have to rent it from the Dark Knight page that they've created. They've created a fan page in Facebook.
So when I first heard this idea, the first thing that popped in my mind is that's silly. I don't go to Facebook to watch a video. I go there to connect with friends. And this is a bad direction and a brand that is not valued at. But then I tried wrapping my mind around the idea of Facebook not as a destination site to connect with friends, but instead as a clubhouse to connect with friends. And when I thought about it as this virtual physical space, well, what do I do when I connect with friends? I don't just talk to them directly. We play games. We play some pool while we're talking. We have drinks while we're talking. We watch movies and TV while we're talking. And in that context, I could totally see it. The most shocking thing out of the entire article was the line here that said, the only odd thing about this combination is that it's taken this long to come about. Facebook is either the 2nd or 6th biggest video site in the U.S., depending on who's counting. I had no idea that they were up there hanging with the likes of YouTube and Hulu and Netflix.
And if the studios are looking to build up competition to Netflix because of their huge predominance that we were talking about earlier, this is a good way to go. Place with a huge built-in audience, people who already consume video, and you're taking a gamble that, hey, you know what? If you're a fan of The Dark Knight, you'll tell your friend to watch it and send them the link, and they won't even have to leave Facebook to do it. The big problem is something like Netflix or even Hulu Plus, you can put on your television. This has got a ways to go before it enters that space where I can actually watch it on my television.
I don't know that that's even that big a deal because folks like you and me, we have the infrastructure and the tech know-how to send most of these things onto our living room television. I use PlayOn to get Hulu into
yeah, but if you want the mass market, man.
But exactly, most people who watch video online watch it windowed. I think if you talk to most people, and I'm talking about for all the shows, including this show, including Scam School, including all the stuff on YouTube, people are getting accustomed to the idea that you watch the video over here and you have a chat room open or an article you're poking around at or a video game you're playing.
I agree, but if I'm going to watch The Dark Knight, I want it up on the television in the living room, not windowed in the corner.
That's the purist in you. That's Utah Merritt. Wrap your mind around a 16-year-old kid who's built up a bunch of Facebook credits because he's playing Farmville.
Now, come on. Really? The 16-year-old kid isn't interested in a big, high-definition picture with surround sound?
16-year-old kid, if he's smart enough to be tech savvy, he's already BitTorrented it and he's watching it in his room. If it's some 16-year-old girl who's not hip to that kind of stuff, she's just going to hit the button and go because it's right there. And finally, she'll see.
Maybe for TV shows, but for something like The Dark Knight, people want to watch it big.
You are projecting how
no,
you
I'm
think
not.
people
No,
should
I'm not because I'm
something.
actually not like that. I'm the one who's more likely to be like, yeah, watching it on my Mac's fine.
I'm telling you, the kids will watch it and they won't even care. You're talking about these are the same kids who will download a bootleg of
You
of
are nuts. They will download that bootleg and they will put it on a media server connected to their television and watch it.
These are children. No way. They're not going to do that. They're watching it in a window. They're already watching it.
These are children who are better at using computers than I am because their brains are supple.
They don't have the taste for quality. They don't have the cultured palate. They're just going to experience it like, well, I'm watching the thing. It's right here. And plus, they get bored easily. They're going to want to do other things. And if you go full screen, you can't do other things while you're watching it.
FrameRateShow@gmail.com. Settle this debate for us, 16-year-olds.
Chat room's already on my side.
What do you want?
I'm seeing a lot of Scam School Brian is right in there. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not seeing that because I closed my eyes.
Seriously, send in. This is good. It's rare. I love these moments when we find a moment of real contention between the two of us. I think this Facebook thing could be very, very huge. And I think even though you're going to have a reduction in the fidelity and the experience is going to be laughable compared to the experience of watching it on a nice home media setup, I still say they're going to make money hand over fist. The fact they're using their own made-up currency is brilliant, too.
Sony Pictures executive seems to agree with you. He said today the film studio is looking into a new web distribution method similar to the one announced by Warner Brothers Studios. So maybe they're going to head to Facebook as well, or maybe they'll go to Friendster, since they said similar.
Yeah. This is a good story in that it gives a nod that they're going in the right direction with this Facebook stuff, but it's sort of a non-story where it's like some guy's like, I don't know, it seems like a good idea.
Now, here's an interesting take on competition with Netflix. A site called Fandor hopes to make you pay them $10 a month to be able to watch independent movies carefully picked. So they're going after the curation angle, which is like, sure, Netflix has lots of movies, but they have lots of crap. And sometimes it's hard to find movies that you're interested in because, yeah, they have the recommendation engine, but does it always really work for you? So they launched during South by Southwest, offering a wide range of films, including shorts, documentaries, international offerings, film festival features. And they say the idea is that it's hard for people who like indie films to find them and discover things they don't know a lot about. Fandor co-founder and CTO Dan Aronson says we're trying to replicate the film festival experience where you can discover and share great films that aren't marketed to you by the Hollywood mainstream. I think it's a laudable idea. I think they've definitely hit on a problem in online video. Do you think people will pay $10 a month for that, though?
Well, when I read this article, I didn't get to the part about it being $10 a month until like the 8th paragraph in. So I start reading this, and I'm like, oh, it's like a YouTube, but curated with a tight group of awesome films that somebody's bringing to me to experience. They're like, I think I'm going to do this. I think I might do this right now. And then I got down to the bottom where it's just like, is that worth $10 a month? And I was like, no, because I am too accustomed to paying nothing for stuff that I don't know what to expect from. This is a gamble. I'm not the type of person who goes in for art films very often just out of nowhere. I'm not somebody who chases the high of being the first to discover an amazing experience. And with that being the case, if this was ad-supported, if there was some way to make money, because these films need exposure. So if they need exposure, and I'm the one giving them my time to try them on for size, and maybe I'll like them, maybe I'll not. They're not established names. They're not established properties. I'm the one taking the risk here. I don't want to pay you $10 for the privilege of not knowing if I'm going to hate your movie or not.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things about it, too, is it's a perception issue. I mean, when you try to think about it logically, even let's say you're a little bit bigger of an indie film fan than you just described, you probably pay $8 to $10 a month to go to one indie film. And so if you go to a couple indie films, that's like $16 to $20. So $10 a month to have unlimited access to a bunch of indie films that are carefully selected, especially if it's, you know, if you agree with the selection and they do a good job on that, makes perfect financial sense. But you totally nailed it, which is I'm used to getting it for free.
Yes.
So if I'm on the internet, I want a free version of Fandor, and then maybe I'd pay $10 a month for the special version of Fandor.
Well, and there is a small subset. There's some group of, in my I know it's not fair, but in my imagination, it's some NPR fan who is the type of person who just loves discovering foreign or independent small films. And for that person, they're gonna love this, and $10 will be a total bargain. There's not enough of them for me to believe that they're going to keep this thing afloat. They got to figure out a way to reach the masses, which is unfortunate because these movies deserve a bigger audience, and there needs to be a way to convince more people to give them a try. And that hurdle of, you know, $10 please is so big on people who are accustomed to watching video on the internet. They're going to have to rejigger this for something to happen.
All right, let's move on to another trailer, if we may. The full Super 8 trailer has come out, and even though it involves J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg being a producer on it and J.J. being the director, I feel like this looks a little more Spielberg.
Yes. Well, that might be because of the cinematography.
If only I knew someone who was going to interview the cinematographer from Super 8 soon and could put that question to them.
We currently have booked for tomorrow night on NSFW Larry Fong, a cinematographer for Watchmen, 300, and of course Super 8. I love the way this looks. It's like it's a journey back in time. I feel like I'm in the early 80s, late 70s. Can we take a look at, can we watch this trailer?
Let's roll the clip.
I've got nothing against your friends. I like your friends. Well, things have obviously changed for us.
have to help Charles finish his movie.
Be good for you to spend some time with kids who don't run around with cameras and monster makeup.
Could you close your eyes, please? Yeah. And action! Watch out!
An eastbound freighter derailed. What the cargo was on that freighter, we don't know.
We can't tell anyone. I know.
I understand you have concerns about our cargo.
Colonel, there isn't anything else that I should know, is there?
I can assure you the answer is no.
We've got calls from people who found local dogs, but calls coming in aren't local.
Lucy!
It's like they all just ran away.
I've got property damage. I've got theft. I've got 9 people missing now. There are things happening around here that I can't explain.
We have to find this thing. I don't feel good about this.
Go!
I saw it. No one believes me.
I believe you. What the hell?
I'm in.
Yeah, let me tell you. There are one of the hardest things to pull off is to engage someone with the style and tone of the movie without ruining any of the plot. I have no idea what this movie's about. I know there's a thing people are looking for, and that there's
That eats
kids
dogs.
Maybe. Who knows? Has something to do with dogs at some point. And plus, knowing these guys, that probably has nothing to do with the main story. But man, do I trust J.J. Abrams? Do I trust? I used to trust Steven Spielberg.
Is it actually set in the early 80s?
It is. It is. That's the late 70s.
Looks like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like,
that's what I love about it.
Those clothing, it's that kind of set, it's that kind of city. It's definitely got that Spielberg feel to it.
Even looking at the first 5 seconds of the trailer, when you see the Amblin logo, something that we've seen for 25 years now, immediately followed by the Bad Robot logo, it's this great mesh of like, I love that in my childhood. I love that in my adulthood. This is about my childhood with children, and I can imagine I was a child back with these children doing these things. I have no idea what to expect. I'm very excited about it, though, and I love the way they've been marketing this thing. Less is more. Oftentimes, if you want an amazing experience at the box office.
All right, before we move out of film, I guess Jay, do you say Baruchel? Is that how you say his name?
I say the guy who played Hiccup.
The guy who played Hiccup is talking about a second How to Train Your Dragon and possibly a trilogy.
Yeah. Now, did you ever get around to watching How to Train Your Dragon?
I still haven't, though, and it's on my list, though, because so many people have told me it's good.
I'm not going to lie. I almost made Andrew Main and Justin Robert Young crowd around my iPad to watch it. And this was another one of those moments. I paid full price for How to Train Your Dragon, and I could not figure out how to get it onto my big screen.
No one will watch it that way, Brian.
No, okay, hold on, you. I'm talking about for individual. When I want to show it to someone, it's definitely going to be on the big screen. Touche, by the way, sir. But here's the important thing, is I'm super annoyed because I bought How to Train Your Dragon on iTunes, and I can't get it on my big screen because I'm an idiot who doesn't want to figure out the technical mumbo-jumbo. But loved the movie. It's so good. DreamWorks really coming into their own with the storytelling. But, of course, the movie is based on a series of books. And they're already doing work for a sequel, and there's hints of a trilogy as well. Highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, then why don't you just take tomorrow off, call in sick, and watch How to Train Your Dragon 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Unless
Jason, Jason's right?
Unless you buy it on your iPad and let me watch over your shoulder.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I haven't seen it. Not yet.
Okay, both you guys. That's your homework.
No TNT tomorrow.
TNT tomorrow. We'll be watching How to Train Your Dragon.
Both you guys.
On to the tube tops. Good news for TiVo fan. Is he still out there?
I was about to say, you used the singular. I don't know if you meant to do that or not.
Yeah, well, I feel like, TiVo has a lot of fans in concept, but not as many who still have the TiVo. Although the people who do are really upset at me right now for saying that because they love it.
I'm that guy. The TiVo interface was the Apple of DVR interfaces. I still hate my Time Warner DVR experience. There's too many stupid buttons, and there's too many complicated menus, and it takes forever to find anything. And plus, I miss the boop, boop, boop.
And Gadget reports that an owner of a TiVo Premiere was invited into a field trial to test Hulu Plus on TiVo and also received codes to receive a free month of service. And there's even talk that you would be able to stream the Hulu Plus from your TiVo to your iPad.
That's awesome. Look, it's funny because TiVo and Netflix launched at about the same time, and they were both equally revolutionary and forward-thinking. And I'm so sad because TiVo transformed the way we watch TV, and of course Netflix way later is transforming the way we watch movies at home. Man, what did TiVo do wrong where it's like it got so left behind?
Because they couldn't integrate into the cable boxes. And so the cable boxes held the line, and people didn't want to buy a second box unless they really had to. And that slowed down TiVo sales. And the DVRs on cable were crap at first, but they got better and better, and DirecTV's got better and better, and DirecTV kicked TiVo out. That's where they had their biggest advantage, was having TiVo on DirecTV. Once they got kicked out of DirecTV, it's been really hard for them to gain market share since then. And they've tried to become a software company, but they can't get anybody to, buy and install the software. Comcast was supposed to have a TiVo box years ago. They test marketed it up in New England, and it just never spread around.
What a shame. What a shame. Because, TiVo, they were so forward-thinking, and they were right when everyone... do you remember explaining the concept of a TiVo to someone? And the number one thing you'd hear back from them was like, why would I want to watch more television? And we're like, no, you don't understand. You watch less television because you stop watching commercials. And you're only watching...
You know what? You end up watching more television.
Well, okay, you watch more awesome television, but yeah.
Skip commercials was the other was pause live TV and skip commercials. Those were the two ways to sell TiVo.
Well, and to only see stuff like, imagine you could turn on the TV no matter what time of day it was, and you would only be watching stuff you loved. That was amazing back in the day.
And now I can't imagine myself living in any other way.
Oh, totally. It's silly. It's like now we're annoyed because we don't have all of the past history of America, of all media available to us at any given time in whatever format we feel like.
And why don't we?
Can we get on that? We need a new TiVo.
Hulu is also planning to shrink its board, according to people familiar with the matter. As part of the shift, Walt Disney's Bob Iger and News Corp's Chase Carey may give up their board seats. People said potentially distancing the two men from day-to-day decision making. A lot of folks speculate that this would help Hulu to make better decisions because they constantly wouldn't be pushed by a board of directors who are so entrenched in the old media industry. And of course, NBC has to give up their spots on the board anyway because of the conditions of Comcast buying NBC Universal.
What's funny is the moment I read that headline, I immediately thought, why am I so dumb of business? I have no idea if this is a good sign or a bad sign. Shrink, that's bad, right? But it's like, board, those are bureaucrats who get nothing done. Good or bad, I do not know.
It's all about, what marching orders they give to the CEO, right? Because that's going to have a huge effect. You don't think that it's like, the CEO can do what he wants. And as long as the company's profitable, that's fine. That's not the way it works. When you have a board of directors, they do crazy things. They tell crazy things, and they almost entirely focus on the short-term gains of the stock. And anything that you do that might threaten the short-term gains of the stock is bad. And in a business like Hulu, where you need to take a lot of risks to gain audience and gain penetration and get the business moving, focusing on the short-term valuation of the stock is, it's not such a good idea.
Wow, it's almost as though focusing on the short-term valuation of the stock would be like preserving the status quo, even though there's a vast opportunity to expand and grow new markets. Wait, and these are old media guys that you were saying?
Yeah, but I'm talking about all boards, old and new.
I know. I'm just saying, an old media and a board together. Maybe this is good news.
Yeah.
I'm fully satisfied.
A German Hulu paid content calls it Germany's Bundeskartellamt has objected to plans by RTL and ProSiebenSat to form an online video on-demand joint venture. So essentially, these two broadcasters were going to get together in Germany and make their own Hulu. Germany's competition authority said, "Oh no." That would strengthen the already existing dominant duopoly between the two broadcasting groups on the market for TV advertising in Germany. And while the benefits of increased range of video on demand offerings would be good, it would not outweigh the negative effects to competition, and therefore, no way you cannot create a Hulu in Germany.
What? But wouldn't it be good to be able to have content that you love available at all times?
Think about it this way. Instead of having the 4, 5, 6 broadcast networks we have in the U.S., if it was just ABC and CBS.
Okay.
And there wasn't even a lot of cable programming, right? And ABC and CBS probably owned most of the cable programming that there was. And actually, ABC and CBS are horrible examples in this case. Let's say NBC and Fox.
Okay.
NBC and Fox are your only two broadcasters, and you've got NBC owns Bravo and Sci-Fi and all these cable channels, and Fox owns FX and Fox Movie Channel and Fox News, all these other cable channels, and they get together and they say, hey, we're going to create an online video service called Fulu. Yeah. Fun BC. And it's going to have all of our programming from all of our networks in one place. SEC, I could see our SEC coming in and saying, no, now every single piece of television is in one website. That's too much concentration. That's a monopoly.
Now, what's the solution, though? Because I assume that Germany would like access. I mean, we hear all the time. We get emails at framerateshow@gmail.com complaining all the time about how Hulu's only available in this country or that country. I assume there's a demand for this. That's why people are trying to put it together. What's the solution to make it work?
Well, I think the solution would be to say, as the competition authority said, you guys go, each one of you make your own video portal. And if a third party wants to negotiate with both of you to create a portal that licenses both your content, that's fine, as long as it's not you owning it.
Can they pull a Hulu and not, it's not us?
No, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
In other words, with Hulu, it is owned by Fox, NBC, and ABC. So they were saying, yeah, we'll just own it, but it'll operate it. And he's like, not good enough. It has to be owned by somebody else, too.
All right.
And it has to be very organized.
What does that mean?
Because it's German.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to give myself time to open the next story. Double bounce.
That was one of those moments where your brain was somewhere else and your mouth was running shop. And you're like, mouth, why did I leave you in charge?
Wait, what do you have against Germans? You're part German, mouth? Double Bounce Media is a new venture launching later this month that seeks to bring together people seeking content for their digital platform and devices that consume the content. Double Bounce is going to partner with production companies to sell to digital content distributors and sponsors either developed serial concepts that haven't sold or existing program that's out of its licensed window. So this is kind of this is a great scavenger business. Like, you find stuff that nobody wanted to license or stuff that people didn't want to authorize for pilot. Sure, a lot of it is going to be for a reason, but there's probably some gems in there that you can find and then put it online.
So, okay, so this is stuff that would not see the light of day on TV, but it'd be kind of like the scrap bin in
the guy Matt Farber, who started Logo, the gay themed channel, says that they're going to probably have mostly what he calls utilitainment.
What is that? Okay, what is
lifestyle-oriented fare that plays to niche audiences? I think of it as like HGTV type stuff, but even narrower, because everybody's got a home. Well, I guess not everybody has a home, but majority of people.
Do you ever watch the HGTV stuff?
Eileen watches it, so I see it sometimes, yeah.
Okay, and that's just it. Like, I never turn on the television and decide to go to HGTV.
Right, but that's just it. It's a niche.
Right. But when it's on, it's like, it's cosmic, man. It's like, the house was so messy, but now it's all clean. And I feel better. I feel a little better about the world. It's like I never seek it out, but when it's always on, it's hypnotic. I get sucked in.
And you know what? Paid content makes the point that a lot of cable channels mature to the point where their audience levels are on par with broadcasters, and they pass their niche audience targeting to online brands that are looking for the kinds of programming that once worked on cable. So we see that happening with sci-fi right now, right? They're growing and growing and growing, and so there's less and less sci-fi on Sci-Fi, and they even changed their name from SCIFI to SYFY. And so this would be a chance for maybe some of that stuff that isn't getting approved, that used to get approved on Sci-Fi, to go to this double bounce and get approved there.
Now, are we talking about stuff like failed pilots and that kind of thing?
Some of it is that. Some of it are series that just, they got approved to do a pilot and then didn't get picked up, and so they would get to do their series on double bounce.
Well, in fact, the chat room brought up one of my all-time favorite failed pilots. It was directed by Ben Stiller back in 1998, starring Jack Black and Owen Wilson, called Heat Vision and Jack. Did you ever see that?
No, I never saw Heat Vision and Jack.
Dude, it was great. It was riffing on the old Knight Rider, $6 Million Man, Incredible Hulk stuff. So it's about a renegade astronaut on the run from NASA who drives his talking motorcycle. NASA, of course, sends Ron Silver playing Ron Silver, the actor, hunting down Jack Black. It was so smart and so funny and so retro, and it just never got picked up. If this is the kind of content that they would have on this, I would be. This is a gold mine. The internet, when they find something awesome, kicks it out and suddenly gets it 1 million views. This could be a very good decision.
You combine this with the idea of Netflix starting to do their own original programming, and something is starting to come together that I've been wanting to happen for a long time. Which is, in the face of all of these people trying to restrict their content and say, well, we're only going to put it on Hulu for a couple of weeks, and we're going to DRM the crap out of it, so when you buy it, it's restricted what screens you can even watch it on. Somebody starts making quality programming and says, look, I grew up on the internet. I live on the internet. I understand the internet, and I'm going to give this content to you the way I know you want it. Unrestricted, available, able to play on whatever screen you want, and make a business out of that. And that is the only way that you force the old networks out of their comfort zone and to start taking the kind of risks that they need to take.
That is an amazing point, because everything we're experiencing now in new media and online content, we've seen before. In the beginning, there were 3 major networks, or actually 2 major networks, and then CBS, and then later Fox. Or was it ABC? I forget which one. But the point is they were first, and they had no idea what they were doing, and they established the broadcast media. They figured out broadcast media. Then in the 70s, when cable started, nobody knew what to do. So they took the dregs from broadcast television and they replayed them. And they're like, yeah, no, sure, syndication. Yeah, give us the monkeys. We'll play them, 5 times a week or whatever. And now we're doing the same thing. And of course, it was in cable television. It was the people who were born of cable, who got cable, who came up with the CNNs, the HBOs, the later FX networks, and all the AMCs. And now we're seeing a mature market where these people have established their own. They're acting like broadcast networks now. And so here we are on the internet, this brand new audience where 5 years ago, there was no audience. There was no reason to invest in it. So we were taking the dregs. We're taking old episodes from Viacom content and we're throwing them up on YouTube. And we think that this is just television with a chat room, but we're growing up now and we're discovering that internet is its own thing, and we can start creating our own content that will be fundamentally different in a way that would never work on either television and certainly not broadcast media. And I could not be more excited about it.
Yeah, the only thing that could get in the way of this is the idea that I won't be able to get enough bandwidth to watch this stuff. Because if Comcast and Uverse and all those people want to keep things on some restricted tier that I can only watch if I pay extra, that's fine. As long as I've got enough bandwidth to watch the competition, and there is competition, and it's getting better all the time, like you just described, in the long term, that's fine. But if they are able to say, and we're going to strangle your bandwidth so you couldn't watch anything else anyway, ha 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 ha.
And that's the big problem, is that the providers of the pipes happen to be the guys who are most threatened by the development of a new media. And they really shouldn't be, because the pie just keeps growing. It's not like the broadcast, well, I take that back, actually. Broadcast networks have certainly taken a hit over the last few years. But it's not like they're out on the street totally, destitute at this point.
All right, and let's change our tone and give some applause to CNN. 2 announcements from South by Southwest. They have, first of all, plans to flip the switch on a version of the TV Everywhere from Time Warner, which owns CNN, making it possible for subscribers of Comcast, Xfinity, Dish, Cox, and Verizon Fios to watch CNN live across all platforms, all devices. Well done. That's the way it should work. Of course, you have to be a subscriber to the service to get CNN to watch it everywhere, but you shouldn't be restricted to only watching it at home. CNN also will launch a new video player taking full advantage of the native HD being used for all of its footage, so that CNN's online video experience will be all in HD as well.
Yeah, step in the right direction. And look, we always applaud anything that allows freedom for people to experience stuff the way they want, because nobody wants to have to go to Ustream to get a pirate feed of CNN. They'd much rather be able to experience it directly. This is great.
I hate it when you get a pirate feed of CNN and it's just guys dressed as pirates reading the same stories.
Well, and plus they're making up stories half the time. It's like you get bad information. They're like, "Yar, aliens invaded Australia today. They ate 5 wallabies."
And it's like, yes, they invaded Australia, but they didn't eat 5 wallabies. That's just a lie.
That's so true.
All right, let's finish up with some emails to framerateshow@gmail.com.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate. Oh, yeah.
New favorite intro, bro. New favorite intro. Love it.
Is so good. Plus, it gives a plug to Kuhan every time we play it.
No. You want to take this first one here?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I took your challenge and watched a random I'm sorry, Strasbourg again. I haven't read the second one. I hope I'm not the first to send this in, but have you all seen the Tron Legacy Extra that could be a pre-teaser for Tron 3? It's awesome! And he's got a link to the Tron 3 trailer. It'll be on the BR coming out next month, and there's also some other hints at things that may be extras on the disc. I haven't seen this. This is exciting.
Oh my gosh. The whole idea with the next day content, as I understand it, is that a lot of it is meant to be special features that'll be on the disc when it comes out for Tron Legacy that maybe would make Tron Legacy make a little bit more sense, but it covers the time between the first movie and the second movie. I got to tell you, we had our problems with Tron Legacy, but I think that we both have enough deep, deep love for this idea in this universe that we don't mind seeing another crack at the story. And I think I'd be very excited to see them take things a little bit farther.
Yeah, I agree. Just watching that little bit of the trailer that we were showing here, I got excited. It looks good. And as somebody said in the chat room earlier, like, will it have more Tron in it? Then I'm excited.
Hopefully. Well, I'll tell you what, I found myself, I'm not going to say where or how or by whose hands, but I found myself watching what may have been a less than legal copy of Tron Legacy, or pre-release that was released to some distributors. And the first third of that movie, I really liked. I really like everything up until Flynn shows up. I'm sorry, you may want to do a spoiler alert, like green. Flynn shows up at some point. The whole first third I enjoy a lot, and it's really all my disappointments are as I'm watching stuff.
I like that we almost always do our spoiler alert after we've spoiled something. Oh, by the way.
Oh, well, at least they make it in there.
The stuff that, anyway, the point is everything that I didn't like about the movie was just missed opportunities. It's just like, and I go back to my wife had the perfect thing. Like she said, when they talk about going to this party to meet this important guy, Bonnie was like, "Oh my God, what would a party look like in the Tron universe?" And she was so excited, and it turned out that the answer was a really crappy kegger is what it looks like.
Yeah, kind of a lame kegger in a very white bar.
That's right. Two guys, a girl hanging out talking. Couple of people making out in the corner.
Now, Euchre says Scam School Brian and Ace Detect must not have been aware that there was a whole alternate reality game before the film. But I was not aware of that. But you were, right? I think.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was. I didn't. The problem was with many of these games, it's sort of it's like Fight Club. You choose your own level of involvement, and I loved the fact that they were doing it, and I loved what little bits I saw going to websites where you could do a kind of a loose hack job and try to log in as different names to see what happens. I love all of that stuff, but I just I got busy and I didn't get a chance to do it. But I love the whole Flynn Lives phenomenon, and I don't mind a guided tour of all the things that they wanted to express in that alternate reality game.
All right, one more email before we go.
I'm going to skip the part where the guy says that he took our challenge and watched the random Netflix movie all the way through exam. He says, no, Brian, this is actually a different email. Just let me keep reading it. Pause for response. Wait, did he actually feed me a line? He fed you a line.
Oh, really?
He meant for this to be written or to be read by Tom. Anyway, just want to let you guys know that I love the show. I've noticed that you guys don't talk much about foreign films. I realize it's a bit of a niche interest, but I'd be curious to see what foreign movies or franchises the both of you are most interested in, and whether either of you know of a good place to find news about foreign films. I am most interested in Spanish language films, particularly Del Toro, maybe Almodovar once in a while. Do you know who that is?
Almodovar, yeah. I am familiar with Almodovar. I mostly like Maoist films, Chinese language.
What's funny is that's the next line. He says, and Chinese films, partly just because I understand the languages. I'm also going to put you to the biggest question under these films. You know the question I want to ask, and actually I bet you could guess it. Dubbing or subtitles? I personally prefer subtitles, as dubbing removes much of the original performance, which I find valuable even when I don't understand the original language. First of all, obviously, you got part of your answer because this independent film, what was the name of the independent film thing they're trying to put together?
Fandor.
Yeah, and that's not the Luck Dragon in
Fandor, Defender of the Universe.
With a little luck. I know my answer. What do you say?
Definitely subtitles for me.
Yes, I am.
And I do watch plenty of foreign films. We haven't talked about them much because I haven't watched many lately. I don't think, but I've seen some Almodovar films. And it was so funny. I was at South by Southwest and I said something about Kurosawa, and somebody's like, "Well, that's what you always say when you don't know anything about film. You just say, oh, I watch Kurosawa.' But I like Kurosawa.
Can I tell you something? I've never watched a single Akira Kurosawa film.
Do you know why I watched Kurosawa? The thing that made me taken aback by that comment was not because I watched it in film school, or I watched it because I was trying to impress a girl, or that I was watching it because I was in college going through an angsty period, which is why most people watch Kurosawa films. I watched Kurosawa because I was reading a book about how Star Wars was made, and there were 3 films in particular that were mentioned as huge influences on George Lucas in writing the script for Star Wars. And so I actually watched a bunch of films. I watched a bunch of war films. I watched some old serials because I wanted to see all those movies that had that influence and try to tease out those influences.
Yes, and that is
so
exactly.
I recommend watching Kurosawa films for that reason.
I don't know why this popped into my head, but we were talking about Akira Kurosawa, and it made me think about how. Did we ever talk about the fact? Have you ever? We did get one other letter asking us if we've talked about or watched A Boy and His Dog. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I don't think so. A Boy and His Dog? Maybe.
A Boy and His Dog was it stars a very young what's his name? Miami Vice. No socks. Don Johnson. And a talking psychic dog in a post-apocalyptic universe. It was.
This is on Netflix instant streaming, by the way.
It's on Netflix instant streaming, but the way I saw it first was because the copyright had expired on it, and it was on archive.org. So I downloaded it and watched it actually on my iPhone back in the day. But A Boy and His Dog, did you ever see it, Jason? What did you think?
No, I never have. Actually, the only thing I ever remember about this is back when I was a big fan of the Commodore 64, there was a game called A Boy and His Dog after the movie.
Maybe
and
that's
I played
what
it
I'm
all
remembering.
the time. I loved it.
Well, I do have a confession. I only, because it was on my phone, and I never decided to sit down and watch a full movie on my phone, I never quite finished it, so I only got halfway through. It is a very gritty story. It's got lots of adult themes and non-consensual interactions with women. But it, I kind of want all 3 of us to watch it because it's out now on instant streaming, and to report back and say what we thought.
I watched Let the Right One In. The original, they redid it as Let Me In the U.S., but I think it was much better. I think it was in Swedish.
The original is awesome.
I saw the original in Swedish. I did not watch the remake, mainly because
I watched the remake and it was fine, but I'm like, the original was still better.
Yeah. I also there are parts of I guess documentaries you often find yourself reading subtitles during. Man on Wire had a lot of foreign language in it, and I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I also watched Train Spotting in the original Scottish.
Which ties into our coverage of the iPad 2 with some poor guy from Ireland. I could not understand a single word he was saying. They might as well be speaking another language.
All right, well, that is it for this edition of Frame Rate. If you have some questions for us, email us, framerateshow@gmail.com. A pleasure, as always, Mr. Brushwood.
Great time, Tom. We'll catch you next time. See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.